equation for a line parallel to a given line. I want you to notice here, we're going to write an equation for a line parallel to a given line. Okay, we got to end up with. You're not done today until you have your own equation, and it's going to be in y equals mx plus b form. What's that form called? Slope-intercept form, right? Yeah, slope-intercept form. But it's really important that you don't just write an equation that has the same slope and a different y-intercept. Because remember, isn't that the definition for parallel lines? Besides the fact that they'll never meet, here's how they never meet. They have the same slope, but different y-intercepts. So we want to write an equation for a line that is parallel to a given line, but it has to go through a certain point. It has to go through a given point. So we don't get to just say, okay, I'll just write an equation of a line that has the same slope and a different y-intercept. Presto, I'll have it. You'll only have it if it would go through that point they gave you for it to go through. So in this first one here, we have, it says write an equation. This is our example one. Write an equation in slope-intercept form for the line that passes through, here's our given point. It has to go through that point. Let's go put that point in our graph down here right now. It has to pass through ordered pair 2, 4. So go ahead and put that right on the graph. We have to get a line to go through that point that will be parallel to this line right here. It has to be parallel to that line. Okay? So, step one, here's how we can go about it. Find the slope of the given line. What's the slope of the given line? 3. M equals 3 for this one, doesn't it? And just out of curiosity, what's its starting point? Because we're going to graph it anyway.
2.
2. Okay. So, you know what? Maybe it'd be a good idea if right now we just graph that line so we get a better picture of what we're actually going to be doing. Would you go ahead and graph the line y equals 3x plus 2. And that point that we already have on there, that's going to belong to another line, by the way. Okay? That one's going to belong to another line. So we're going to start at 2. And what's our rise over runs that we can use for m equals 3? 3 over 1. Or we can use negative 3 over negative 1. Okay, so let's get that line graphed. Let me get some rulers out to you. And remember, that first point we put on there, it's not part of this line. It's going to be on another line. So that other point that we put on there, we're kind of ignoring it for a moment and saying, oh, here, this is my given line. I have these 3 points that help me make that. Okay, I need to make a better line than I did. Yes, Stefan?
Shouldn't that line be positive?
Yeah.
Yeah, it should. What happened? Thank you very much for catching that. Good catch. Undo writing, undo line. Okay. So I went up 3, but I went left 1 instead of right 1, didn't I? Okay. So I start at 2, and I got to go the right directions. And then I put my other ordered pair back there from that other point. Okay. Yeah, it should be rising from left to right, but it's got a positive slope, shouldn't it? Okay. So we have a line on there. We have that point that they gave us that's not part of that line, but what do they want us to do? They want us to find the equation of the line that would go through that point. So remember, it has to have its own y-intercept, but it can have the same what?
Slope.
It can have the same slope. Okay? So here's what they did. They said, well, here's the deal. If I have to have the same slope, in step 2, we're going to write an equation in point slope form. I'm going to steal that one's slope, m equals 3, it has to go through the ordered pair 2, 4, so that means my x sub 1 value will be 2, and my y sub 1 value will be 4. And then, what's that form called again that I just put an arrow by? What's that form called? Point slope form. So I write down my point slope form model. I substitute into it, I put the 4 in for the y sub 1, the 3 in for the m, and the 2 in for the x. And now I have it in point slope form. And then step 3 says, write the equation in slope intercept form, because then it'll be, then we'll have the equation that they want and we'll have a graph, and then we'll graph it. So this is not new stuff to us. The only thing we do different is we change it to add the opposite. So why don't you do that in your notes so it looks like what we're used to doing. This is what we typically do. And then we do the distributive property, right? That's our next step. And we get y plus negative 4. What does this become? 3 times x is 3x and plus negative 6. Do this with me because this is how we do it. And then we add 4 to both sides, because adding a negative 4, we add its opposite, and we will end up with y equals 3x plus negative 2. And cleaned up, we'll get what they did, won't we? Okay, so we're gonna, even though that point is already on the graph, we're gonna kind of like pretend it's invisible at the moment. In fact, you know what? Maybe we should just, no, we're gonna leave it there. We're just gonna pretend it's invisible for a moment. We're gonna say if I have to graph this line, y equals 3x plus negative 2, it has the same slope. We already know how to do that slope, right? We did, or at least you guys do, not me maybe. And then what's its starting point? Negative 2. So we're going to go to the graph and start at negative 2. Remember, we can go up 3 and right 1. Or we can go down 3 and left 1. Take our ruler and draw a line going through our 3 points. And find out that that line also does what? Goes through our given point that we had. So we probably have a good equation, because it went through the point it was supposed to. And our lines look parallel, right? Okay, so typically what we're not going to do is probably put the given point on the graph to start with. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to get the equation. And you know what? I think what we could do is we could graph the given line. And then we'll go to work doing our step 1, 2, 3. And then our step 4, we'll graph our new equation, our new line. And then we'll check to see if it goes through the given point. Okay? So let's do number 3 here. Okay, first of all, we got to decide what's our given line. What's our given line? Given line, the one that's already going to, the one we're going to put in the graph to start with rows.
Y equals negative x plus 4.
Okay, y equals negative x plus 4. So let's identify its slope. What's its slope? Schmarky?
X, negative x.
Okay, remember we don't include the negative 1, right? Yeah, it's negative 1. We don't include the x, we just include the number x is being multiplied by. And then b, its starting point is 4. Okay. How about before we even move on, we just go ahead and graph that line, okay? So let's get that one on our graph and see what does that one look like. If we have a negative 1 slope, that's the same as doing what? Negative 1 over positive 1 or
1 over -1.
positive 1 over negative 1. Yeah, when we have a negative slope, only one of them is negative. And when the points are that close, it's sometimes good, just to get a better graph, it's sometimes good to make a few more points, more than our 3. Just kind of go crazy and make a bunch of points. Okay, now remember, that was the line that was given to us. They told us what the equation was, we graphed it. We're supposed to now come up with the equation of a line that's parallel to that. How many lines are parallel to that? An infinite number of them. But we only have to find one. And how do we know which one we're supposed to find? It's supposed to go through what? It's supposed to go through our given point. So our given point that it has to go through is what?
4.
It is negative, oh, I'll just put that right. It is -1, -3. I hope you guys are, I'm kind of using up a whole lot of room here. This is our what? X sub 1, and this is our Y sub 1. Okay. So we have to come up with a line that's going to go with this, go through this given point. Well, what's its slope going to be? -1, because it's got to be parallel to that other one. So we know it has to be -1. It has to have the same slope as the other one. So now we'll go over here and we'll do our point slope form. I don't know if we want to run through all those steps, or if we can just do it all in one. Yeah, I think we can just do it. We're just going to do this. We're going to call this the new equation. We need point slope form, don't we? What's the model for point slope form? Y minus y sub 1 equals m times x minus x sub 1. Okay, we're substituting into that. And we're going to get it put into slope-intercept form. So we have y subtract, what's going in that? -3 and then equals -1 times x minus -1. We need changes to addition, don't we? So it's y plus 3 equals -1 times x plus 1. Okay? Now we'll do our multiplying on the right side. What do we get?
Y plus 3. Y minus 3 equals -1 plus -1. We're going to subtract 3. Gotcha.
Okay, and now we'll subtract 3 from both sides,
So we can make y equals
which over here, let's change this to, subtracting 3 is the same as what?
adding -3.
Adding a -3.
Which we do with
So we get y equals what?
-1x plus -4.
Okay. We can clean that up, can't we? Isaac?
Y equals -x minus 4.
Okay, this is how we would see that in an answer bank. So there's our new equation. So we have our new equation, which is y equals -x minus 4. Remember, it has the same slope as the other one. We've already used that slope once. We're going to use it again. And its starting point is what? -4. Its slope is -1. Its starting point is -4. Okay, so go to your graph and graph that line. Notice we're not writing rise over run every time. I'm hoping you're getting to this point that you can do it without that. If you can't, you need to be writing it down. What are the rises and runs you can use to help you get a good graph? And again, the more points you make, the better you have to line up your ruler through. The hope is your lines first of all look parallel. And the second hope is that that line goes through the point they gave you. Does it go through ordered pair, -1, -3?
Yes.
Okay, so negative, I'm going to put it in red on here, -1, -3 is that point right there, isn't it? And it's going through it. How many lines do you think there are parallel to that line they gave us?
Infinite.
Okay, that go through that point.
One.
Only one. So there's only one right answer here, guys. Because there's only one line that can be parallel to that given line that goes through that point. Even though there's an infinite number of parallel lines, there's a whole bunch of other lines that could be parallel to that have different starting points. This would be the only one that would go through the given point that they gave us, okay? Okay, questions? Okay, then let's try one more here before I think you guys are ready to try it on your own. Okay, so wherever we have our given line, that's what we start with. What is our given line in this one?
Y equals 2x.
Y equals 2x. It says right here. Write an equation for the line that passes through this point, passes through that, is parallel to. There's our given line. What's its slope? 2. What's its starting point? What's y-intercept?
0.
That's the 0. When there's nothing being added, it got cleaned up because the only thing that can be added and then cleaned up is the 0. Adding 0 does not change its value. Okay, now we're going to move on to our given point and do some identifying with it. What's our given point?
2, -1.
2, -1. Okay, so we got this line that's got to go through that point. That is, 2 is what?
X sub 1.
X sub 1, and -1 is
Y sub 1.
y sub 1. This point that a line's going to go through has to have a slope. What's its slope?
2.
2, because it has to be the same as the other line, right? And now we're ready to move on to where we are going to do our point, our new equation. Let's put that's our topic here, our title, I mean. New equation. The other line. Now, before we started to graph the given line right away. Should we go back and graph that given line so we don't get confused about this one? Let's go back and graph that given line. Let's backtrack here for a bit. We're going to start at 0. So we're graphing this one right here. We're graphing our given line. We're going to start at 0. And what are we going to do?
Go up 2 and go to the right one.
Up 2 over 1 to the right. Or
-2,
-2, -1, down 2, 1 to the left. Okay, so again, self some points and draw your line. So you have a visual of that, and you can say to yourself, okay, now I'm finding a new equation. I'm finding another line that's going to be parallel to that one. So now we'll write our point slope form and substitute into it and get our new equation. Okay, you guys do that on your own, please, without me walking you through it. I want to see if you can find a new equation now. copy my work, in other words, we're not gonna know that you know how to do it. You can use my work to verify that you're doing it okay. Don't just sit and copy it though. So I have the new equation up here, and I'll circle it in blue to show you what it should look like cleaned up. That's what you should end up with. And if you don't, then before you graph, you need to figure out where it went wrong. Once you do agree, graph it and see how we did. This is one of those that when you graph it, you can only go one direction. You have to get off the graph. Feeling pretty good about it because right now it's looking parallel, but I'm still not.
Mrs. LeGrand,
Yes,
will you please send that condition to the office?
I will.
Thank you.
But I'm still not going to be convinced that I'm right until I check to make sure it goes through the order Tara's supposed to go through. Okay? So it's supposed to go through 2, -1. Let's go through 2, -1, which is that point right there. I'm feeling pretty good. Okay, so again, make sure that you got the same thing I did. Were you successful when you graphed it? Were you able, did it go through the point it was supposed to go through? So, we're not done today until we have a new equation and a graph that supports that we have 2 lines parallel to each other with one of them going through that point they gave us. Okay, does that make sense? Any questions? Okay, you have a worksheet, you already have a worksheet, you can get that back out and you can get to work on your homework.